Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Rock Your English. In today's video, you guys are going to watch an interview I had with my friend Coz for a second channel I have called Voices in the Raw. I made a video about the expressions I used during this interview with her. If you haven't seen this video yet, go and check it out because I'm quite sure it's gonna help you guys better understand this interview I had with her. Just click on the first link down below to watch this video. And now, without any further ado, let's watch this interview I had with Cosette Mose to rock your English. Hello everyone, so welcome back to Voices in the Raw. Today I have my favorite chef in the house, Cosette. We're gonna have a conversation about her career, how everything started. Yeah, she has a beautiful story, by the way, and we're going to explore the real importance of cooking for her, of course, and the whole thing that comes together when you do something, but intentionally, in a way to not only to feed your body but to feed your soul. We talked about this many times. Because just to get the ball rolling here, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the people who are watching or listening to our podcast.
Hi everyone, how you doing today? My name is Cosette Mose. I'm from Blanding, Utah, and that's the Four Corner area of southern Utah. It's an hour and a half away from Moab. It's also about 20 minutes away from Monticello, about a good 45 minutes from Monument Valley. Those are the big national parks that are in between. We're like dead center. I've been a chef for 33 years. I never went to culinary school. I learned on my own. I traveled the world. What we have talked about earlier, I basically started my career on a whim because, I discovered flavor.
We're going to talk about this, because that story is interesting. And you said that you've been a chef for 33 years.
Yep, 33 years.
That's quite a long time.
It
and
is.
That's amazing. That is amazing. When I met her, I remember that I asked you my stupid, let's say the most stupid question that a chef can get.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but I asked her if she had a favorite dish. Just right out the gate, she said, "No, I don't have a favorite dish."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, he asked me. What's your favorite dish? And I laughed, and I said, "That's funny because that's everyone's question when they meet a chef." I said, unfortunately, I don't have one. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I've been cooking for 33 years. At that time, I just hit 33.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And I told him, I said, well, the reason why is because, I traveled as a chef. I started traveling as a chef at the age of 16. I started learning at the age of 12 and worked in a restaurant, in a hometown restaurant or whatever, but started cooking, started doing it professionally as a job, as a teenager, and then left home, of course, to go move out. And that's all I knew. So that's kind of basic. And I like the fire because I'm an athlete. So I like the competition. I like the race. I like the pressure of, finishing start to finish. And that was one thing that really sparked me. And not only that, it was the determination and the discipline to learn from really elite chefs in the world, the discipline, the structure, the cleanliness, just everything all together in a ball, like the critique, the meticulousness and how to do all that was something that grew inside me, and which is now known as passion. that passion bit me, and I started going with it. And so, like him and I, like Anderson and I spoke about, I told him, I was like, I don't have a dish because I've been traveling. I started traveling as a chef for a while, and I told him, I said, every chef gets gets asked that question frequently, but what makes mine different is I learn, and I want to learn different cuisines. I want to learn international food. I want to learn food from where it comes from, where the foundation began, why it's the best, why people eat that, why they chose, this is their comfort food, this is their home food, this is where they come from. Whether you move from the East Coast to the West Coast to the North to South, global, everybody has comfort food. I am that person who wants to know why. And so I travel the world and learn that. And I want to learn it, and I learn to master. And once I master the greatest dishes in whatever region it is, that becomes my favorite chef because I put me in there as well. And so every dish that I cook is my favorite.
You just mentioned something that is really interesting, which is comfort food. As I said before, a lot of people, they relate food to old memories.
Yeah.
Just like me, I'm an immigrant to this country. And whenever my wife cooks something that reminds me home, it makes me feel good. Of course, food in the first place is something that is intended to feed your body because you have your necessities. You have the vitamins that you have to take in. You have, I don't know, it can be oh my God, I forgot the carbs, all of these things that we get, from food. But at the same time, food is something that brings us together. We talked about this. And I think this is the beauty because for me, food is something that goes beyond the fact that we need to feed our body. It goes beyond that because it brings great memories back to me, and different flavors also make me experience life differently. I don't know if I ever told you this, but first time I had Indian food in my life was once I moved out here to the U.S. Because Indian restaurants in Brazil, they can be really expensive. So I never had the opportunity, or I couldn't afford actually to go to an Indian restaurant there. And I was always curious about that. And when I tried Indian food for the very first time here, it was amazing because the flavor was an explosion of different flavors in my mouth, which was something completely new to me. But at the same time, it brought, these memories back to me when I wanted to try this type of dish in Brazil, but somehow I couldn't because it was kind of pricey. And so in my perception behind trying that thing for the very first time wasn't revolving around the fact that I was trying something new, but it was connected to these, memories of me living in a country that is, food is amazing in Brazil, but we normally have Brazilian food on a daily basis there. It's something that is very traditional. And this type of international cuisine, of course, you have international restaurants in Sao Paulo, the city I come from. They're amazing, but at the same time, as I said, you can't afford to go to a different restaurant every week. It is something that you have to plan yourself financially speaking beforehand so that you can make it happen. And so for me, eating is a pleasure, but also it's something that feeds my soul. And when I met you, we talked about the very beginning of your career when you were just a tiny little girl. I think you were 5 or 6, you said.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to talk about, this beautiful story behind this beautiful career you have nowadays. So please.
What we spoke about was, this is a story on how my career started. My parents used to travel a lot. Like I said, in my favorite chef video, I was talking about how my family raises horses. My brothers and sisters were very big athletes, cross country, and we would travel around to the state fairs and like big events. Like right now here in Utah, it's the Days of 47, so we would hit Deseret News. Anyhow, when I was a kid, they would always leave us. They would go to town, which, you know, coming from a small town, going to town is like a bigger place where Walmart's at, bigger areas, bigger restaurants, malls, and stuff like that. And it was like 3 hours away from where we lived. So my parents would always take off, or they'd go to a bigger city, or go, you know, come to the city or whatever, and leave us at home. Well, I was a kid, and I would watch my mom cook all the time and hang out with my mom in the kitchen. And one day, I like opened the freezer. Actually, it was to get a popsicle, an otter pop.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I looked in there, and I see all those like stacks of meat and stuff. And they would always tell us not to turn on the stove. They would tell us, you know, they would buy us like sandwiches and cereal and microwavable food, you know, until they would get back. And they would be like, don't touch the stove, you know, blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, one day I was just like, I want a steak. So I pulled out the steak and I pulled out the drawers to climb up to the sink, plug the sink, and turn on the cold water and let that go. And I grabbed the chair and I pulled up, and my oldest brother came in and he was like, you know, we're not supposed to do that. I'm going to tell mom. You know, I'm going to tell mom, I'm going to tell dad, you know, like, you're not supposed to be doing that. And I was just a little girl. I was, like I said, only 5 or 6, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm hungry. And he was just like, and I was like, do you want some or no? And he stood there and he stared at me and he was just like, go for it. I'll watch you. I was like, so when the steak's thawed out, I put all these seasonings together. And I had an older brother who loves to eat. And he came in, he's like, what are you doing? I'm going to tell dad. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm making a steak. Okay, like basically carry on. And so I threw a bunch of seasonings in a bowl and I caked it on the steak and I flipped it over and made a rub. I caked it on there, threw it in a pan like my mom does with some oil, and hit it with the lid. And I just sat there. I stood on my chair and I was watching it. Flipped it over when it got nice and brown, did the same thing, and then I opened up the cover because I was killing it. You know, I was having a good time. So I opened up the cover to see what I can have with this, and I see beans. I didn't know how to cook rice. I didn't know how to make mac and cheese. I didn't know how to make any of that. But I saw beans, and I know you can throw it in a pot.
Canned beans, right?
Yeah, canned beans, pork and beans. Mm-hmm. So I threw that in a pot and warmed it up, and I started adding some cheese, some onions, and sour cream. And I got it all melted and tossed it, caped it with cheese and threw it in the microwave, topped that up, pulled it out, gave it to my brothers and sisters. And my mom, rest her soul, is my biggest inspiration because I was just acknowledging to or telling Anderson that growing up, and I don't know if it's like an American thing, but I really truly believe it is. But most of the main seasoning for food is just salt and pepper. So it was always been that. Yeah. And so adding all these different like seasonings and stuff into my little rub, that first bite was an explosion. And that was the one story and the one foundation of why I became a chef. And as my brothers and sisters and I, we talk about it to this day, we're always like, rest her soul, but her food was bland. That we hit Flavor Town to the T.
All right, everyone. If you want to watch the complete interview I had with Cosette Mose, head over to my second channel called Voices in the Raw. Just click on the second link down below. In that channel, I have raw conversations with my American friends here, and I'm quite sure this can be excellent material to help you guys rock in English. And if you found this content useful, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to this channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Have an amazing day. Peace.